of December, I have decided to read all the classics that I have bought during the NBS sale. We will start with Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, and then we will have darker storytelling, which is The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. Phantom of the Opera is one of my favorite classics. Let's see if I still love it after so many years of not reading it. So, join me in my everyday life and my reading sprints as I reread Little Women by Louisa May Alcott and Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. I have decided that I will end 2020 on a positive note, talking about Phantom of the Opera, one of my favorite book and musical of all time. Upon finishing my reread of The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, I searched YouTube for book reviews and saw that there are actually a lot of references to the films or Broadway adaptation instead of the book. So I figured, why not just do a book versus Broadway or film review? So in this video, we will discuss the three major liberties that the Broadway and film adaptation of Phantom of the Opera has taken since the publication of the book. But before we start, if you're new here, welcome. This is Marty and I talk a lot about life and literature in this channel. So if you are interested with those stuff, then please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel, and let's talk about life and literature. So before we start and talk about the book, let's talk about the author. Gaston Leroux was a journalist and reporter and has covered a lot of historical issues, especially that one about the 1905 Russian Revolution. He was also involved in covering the story of a ghost lurking at the Palais Garnier Opera House in Paris. And Gaston Leroux was not, however, famous for his Phantom of the Opera during that time because he is more popular for his detective novels, especially The Mystery of the Yellow Room, which is like a French Sherlock Holmes. Now, talking about the book, Phantom of the Opera was published in a daily newspaper between 1909 to 1910, and it became so successful that it was translated in English in 1911. It is said that Gaston Leroux combined his knowledge of the Paris Opera House and drew inspiration from Victor Hugo's The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which was published in 1831, because Victor Hugo was also French and his book featured a physically disfigured protagonist. Both stories features a disfigured character as a central character in the story and comment on the male obsession to beauty and that all-consuming and unhealthy fixation of their male characters became the driving force in writing their plot. And Phantom of the Opera was not as a great success as it is today because he wrote Phantom of the Opera alongside his many other detective novels that he was publishing during that time. And he was averaging about 2 novels per year. Since its publication in 1910, The Phantom of the Opera was adapted in many media, including films, TV series, and Broadway. However, if you will Google The Phantom of the Opera, the first result most likely is the 1986 musical composed by Andrew Lloyd Webber. And that's what we will compare now with the book, even though it's not the most accurate adaptation of the source material. But that's because this is the most successful and most popular of all adaptations of The Phantom of the Opera, which is known as the second longest running opera both in West End and Broadway. And it became so famous, it was even adapted to big screen in 2004. And yes, you heard it correctly, the Broadway of Andrew Lloyd Webber was the one that was adapted to film in 2004 and not the book itself. Comparing the Broadway and the film though is a whole lot of other topic to discuss, but we will not discuss that here. We will however just take the strengths of each as one entry because the film is only an adaptation of the Broadway, so we'll just take them as one. I think this is the most important thing to consider when you compare the source material to its adaptation, because there are a lot of elements in the book that are difficult and nearly impossible to translate in different medium, especially in Broadway. And there are also a lot of things in the books that works well in books and not with films. So there are really some changes and we just have to accept that. So the first one is the genre change. It is important to take note of the change in genre because this is where the story will revolve. This is where the atmosphere will revolve. It will also determine who the characters will be and what would be the plot that would work best in this genre. So having said that, the book was actually considered as pulp horror detective murder mystery. It is darker and more intense. The Broadway, however, is considered as gothic romance that capitalizes on Phantom and Christine's love affair and clearly shows that Phantom is a lot sexier than Raoul as a choice for Christine. In the Broadway, Phantom's murders and crimes and obsession were downplayed. A perfect formula tied with mega powerful music, class casting, best singers gave a new spin to the already successful novel. The second point is missing characters. Now, since we have known that there is a change of genre, we will now proceed to considering who are the characters to remain and who among them could go and still have a decent story. And one of those is Mama Valerius. Mama Valerius is an important character in Christine's childhood because he was the one who took care of Christine and his father. And Mama Valerius was actually the one who provided for Christine's education when her father passed away. Second is not really a missing character. She's there, but there is a shift in her character, and that is Madame Giry. Madame Giry is the box caretaker. She makes sure that the box 5 is reserved for the Phantom. And in the Broadway, Madame Giry is more knowing because I think the role of the Persian was infused in her character in the Broadway and the film. And the Persian's character could not be denied that it is an important role, and maybe that's why when they removed him from the Broadway, they infused his knowledge to Madame Giry. Now, who is the Persian? The Persian is also known as Doroga. Doroga is the chief of police in Persia who saved Eric from his death sentence. Which leads us to our next and final point. Eric's backstory. With the changes in the characters, Eric's backstory was greatly downplayed to that of an abused carnival creature. When in the book, Eric had, if not colorful, a repulsive, murderous, and disturbing life. In the source material, Eric was not actually abused in the carnival. He was shunned though because he has a disfigured face, and that is like the general notion during that time. He had a lonely childhood because even his parents were disgusted by his ugliness. He worked different odd jobs in the carnival, and when he's done with his life in the carnival, he worked as an entertainer to this princess in Persia, where he entertained her by torturing and murdering people in front of her using the different torture devices and chambers he invented. The government saw his genius and commissioned him to build underground and secret passages to different buildings. However, the government also realized that he has known too much and therefore could be a dangerous man. He was then sentenced to death. That's when the Doroga, known as the Persian, let him loose with a vow that Eric will not kill another soul anymore. Alas, Eric went back to his old ways when he reached Paris and inhabited and later extorted money from the managers of Paris Opera House. My overall rating. I gave this book a 5-star rating because it kept me at the edge of my seat, and it is definitely a page turner. The Collins Classics that I reread is only 277 pages. That's how gripping the book is. The writing style doesn't feel dated because the Persian as a narrator is highly engaging. On the question of which is better, this issue is one of those instances that the answer is honestly and truthfully depending on the preference of the reader. If the reader prefers a dark, twisted tale where the Phantom is clearly a malevolent villain, then the book is perfect for you. But if you are more inclined to misunderstood sex god Phantom, a lonely genius living underground, then Weber's musical is the way to go. Whichever way you will choose, I assure you, the journey is one heck of a ride. Personally, I prefer the plot of the book, but I am obsessed with Weber's music, so I don't mind the many changes it took to get here. If you're also obsessed with Phantom of the Opera music by Andrew Lloyd Webber, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more bookish contents with me. And that's it from me today, and that's it from me this year. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again next year. Happy New Year!